right, welcome back to another episode of the School of Why podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. That's Mrs. Wendy Spinner. How are you, Wendy?
I'm doing great, Frankie. How about you?
So glad to have you on the show. I know that you come from a little bit of a different background than some of our guests, but you're actually still, in the game, working with a lot of people, helping them navigate this really crazy world we're living in right now,
Yeah.
specifically around financing and the markets and whatnot. So it's a very difficult time for that, as I'm sure you're having to walk people through that. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this space of helping people find their why and ultimately create opportunities that will fulfill their purpose by getting their finances right and things like that.
Sure. Well, I wake up every day thinking about how I can make the world better. I know that sounds trite, but my focus in my life is really to help empower others to make a positive impact in the world through collaboration, through leadership. And, I grew up in a small town in Western Pennsylvania. I started my career as an electrical engineer because I didn't know what else to do. And Westinghouse was there, and that seemed like a good job. And I ended up designing radar systems for F-14, 15, and 18 fighter planes. And with kind of the passion I've always felt of wanting to leave the world a better place, somehow designing radar systems for fighter jets just didn't quite speak to me. So after doing that, I pivoted and got an MBA, worked in venture capital, and now I'm in financial services, and I feel that I'm in a position where I am now, where I can really, in my daily personal life and my professional life, I can really work in a very specialized way all around purpose and mission. And so my work has given me a platform to integrate my passion for making the difference in the lives of others into the counsel that I provide to women, families, and mission-driven organizations.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that I think is really important that people miss a lot of times is the value of everyday jobs, everyday people, and everyday services, and how important that is. I think a lot of people think that mastering your purpose or breaking your why or being someone who fulfills their purpose has to be this big new idea that no one's ever thought of, or invent the light bulb. And really it's that one-on-one connection and the impact that we each individually make on the people that are around us, whoever that is, that truly is the purpose of our lives. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I really do feel that way. And I am one of my passions is education. And I'm the board chair of an organization that helps like about 3,000 underserved students every year to get to and through college, who normally wouldn't have the opportunity to get a higher education or even graduate from high school. And it's amazing what I've seen, how you affect the life of one young person and the ripple effect that happens with that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been just a living, breathing thing that I've seen happen. And it's amazing, like what you said, when you help one person, there's a way to scale that where others help others. And if you provide the opportunity for people to help each other, it really can be scalable and really make an impact.
Yeah, I love it. So, at the end of the day, how do you harness your purpose in your life and your work? I know that you had said you're a lifelong volunteer and things like that. But what are some of the other things that you found? And I guess maybe you can go into, like, not all volunteering is created equal. So what are some of the things that you do to maximize your energy, your time, and the way that you're going to fulfill your purpose?
Well, one of the things that I feel really fortunate is that I have been able to take my personal and my professional and live my authentic self every day in everything that I do. And it's all very integrated. And I really feel like life's short. And if you don't live, your purpose every day, you're missing out, because it just brings me so much joy. So, my first of all, my family has always been my priority, and I'm like bowing down to you because I know you have 6 kids, I have 2, but raising children really has been the most important work I have ever done. And I only have, I have 2 of them. But my passion about philanthropy is really grounded in making change.
Yeah.
And I have been all the board service that I've done a lot of board service, and it's about making change and making impactful, sustainable, and scalable change in organizations. And, I advise in my work a lot of mission-based organizations, both in the profit and nonprofit sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And I get really excited about, people living their own purpose, which is different than my purpose, but
Of
helping them
course.
to be their achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah. And
Um,
what do you think? First of all, you said something about being your authentic self, and it's interesting because I've actually done 2 books on why and purpose and passion, all that, and I've started to move into this new category that I'm working with called inauthentic existence, which I think will probably be my 3rd book. And the whole thing is about how to become the leader that anyone will follow by digging in and becoming more authentic, which is what all people really need from each of us, is to be that. We're afraid to show up that way. But if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of times there's something that that we don't like about where we're at, or that's not right about where we're at. And it's something inside of me. It's more of an inside job. A lot of times I want to look outwardly and all this, but once I can dig into that and let go of some of the things holding me back,
yeah,
that a lot of times is, some people that I think they have an idea what their purpose is. They just don't know how to get the energy and the passion to get there because they're stuck. And so I realized that knowing what your purpose is one thing. Getting there requires a certain amount of energy that comes from passion. And that passion sometimes is blocked by me holding on to stuff that I need to let go of, and then embracing other things that shouldn't have let go of. Like, for example, the things that I loved as a child that inspired me as a child and created that imagination. So anyway, I wanted to just kind of throw that in there in the mix. You're nodding your head, so you must have something to add to that.
I have I couldn't agree with you more. Um, I think people talk about entrepreneurship, and I actually studied entrepreneurship when I was getting my MBA at UCLA. I was president of the Entrepreneur Association. And when I talk to entrepreneurs and people are like, how can I be successful? And I really think it's starting with reflecting on yourself, like you
Mm-hmm.
said,
Yeah.
your unique experiences in your life, and channeling that into a business that only that person uniquely can. And if I can share an example, so I've come to be an advisor for and work with a company that I think is really incredible. And it was started, Allison Felix, who's one of the most decorated track and field athletes of all time. She was going to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and she couldn't find a footwear sponsor that would
Oh,
meet
wow.
kind of her standards for equity. There's a longer story around that. So they ended up making her a shoe that was a racing spike for her to compete in. And during that process of doing so, they realized that most shoe products were designed for men. So they were casted by a man's foot. And she had a baby girl, and she was like, wait, they should be making shoes for women. And so
Mm-hmm.
they ended up, this was unique to her. She's a runner. She cares about her daughter, and they launched this business a year ago. And it's a great shoe. It's been on Oprah's Favorite Things and won awards, but that is her unique story. And that's, I think, where passion and purpose come together. And
Yes.
um and just to add on to that, I really feel that there's been studies that show that purpose and profit businesses, they do really well. And I think why they do well is that passion comes through. It comes through to their employees. They have better retention. It comes through to their customers. It comes through, because they really care about what they're doing, and
Yeah.
it's not just a something to make money, but it's something they care about, and so the quality is better too.
Yeah, I love that. I noticed you spoke to some of the passion pieces in some of the stuff you had sent me prior to this interview. And I'm guessing that's just part of that wasn't from anything that you read up on the School of Why, was it?
It wasn't, because
I love it.
that's been,
It's just universal then.
it's universal. I feel that, I've been working, I work with about 20 nonprofit organizations. And, we're working with them on their endowments or their foundations, if it's a family foundation, and they're doing a lot of charitable work. And what I've learned is investments in charitable organizations is similar to, it isn't that differentiated from investments in companies, and that nonprofits can't do the change by themselves. It needs to be a collaborative driven effort in terms of driving change and
Yeah.
innovation. And so that's really kind of how my interests are evolving.
Interesting. I love that. And I noticed, one of your specialties that you help women entrepreneurs, um, really be successful. How have the events from the last 2+ years affected the way women use their investments and financial resources to pursue more purposeful lives?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Frankie. And it sounds like you never have a superficial conversation, but what I've found is
Well, I try
that
not to. I I used to have a lot of them. That's why I don't anymore.
yeah, well, I'm the same, but I have found that my conversations with women entrepreneurs, um, have really become very deep, and there's less superficiality, and people the pandemic really did have a disproportionate impact on women having to manage work, caretaking, uncertainties in the world, but it's also resulted in a positive reevaluation
Hmm.
on many levels, including how women participate in their financial decisions. And
Yeah.
women care more about where they work. So if they're an entrepreneur, or they're not if they're entrepreneurial and they start their own business, or if they are not an entrepreneur, they care about where they work and that it speaks to them. They also care about how they invest their money. Like, is it, or my, what do I care about it? Am I investing in things that I care about? And also their philanthropy. I think there's been a lot more intentional philanthropy happening in the world. And women are realizing that they can impact change. And I think it's really been an inflection point for women. And one of the things that we found in our business at UBS is that a lot of women don't really care about their finances and their investments. And this has been a good catalyst for change, and making a difference for how women think about money and finances, and the multiplier effect that they can have with their money. There's been a lot more collaborative philanthropy, collaborative giving, and one of my personal passions is more collaborative innovation that goes on. And that's something, particularly in Los Angeles, that I'm really passionate about.
And is that where you live, in Los
I
Angeles?
do. I do.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. So one of the last things I wanted to ask you before because I know we could talk about this forever. What do you feel like are the biggest motivations for entrepreneurs to incorporate purpose into their business and investment? I know a lot of people think it's maybe a nice idea and things like that, but what do you feel like? Why is it so important to do that? Um, is it sustainability? Is it to be successful for a longer period of time? Fulfillment overall? What is it that you think?
I think there's a lot of reasons, and I think passion, which is not really, I don't think it's talked about enough in entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
agree.
critical to
Because that's where the
developing.
burnout. If you don't have
Yeah,
passion, you're burnt
you
out.
can't get through it, and you can't get through the hard times. You don't have the resilience. But if you have that vision through your passion, you can really sustain yourself
Love
and
that.
develop a sustainable business model. And I think, and I mentioned before, I think that it creates a better ROI. It's just people that who come to work at your company and share your passion are going to be more productive.
That's right.
They're going to be more strategic. They're going to be more collaborative because you're united on a purpose together. And I'm really passionate about that. People working together, because
Yes.
1 + 1 together is 3.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And, you know, because I think the thing for me is that people, if they're, to me, purpose is just about doing something that helps others, whether that's the person next to you or the greater good or whatever it is. That's really the definition of purpose, is how am I doing something that's not just about me? That's purpose, right? But there's a lot of ways you can do that. And so my own individual story, to your point, like with the shoes, right? Like I'm a drug
Yeah,
addict, alcoholic that's recovered, right? And so I recovered, and I've been sober for almost 15 years. So a
that's
lot of what,
amazing,
thank
Frankie.
you. Thank you. Well, so, but the reason I'm able to do that is because I turned my purpose into helping other people do the same thing. So I spend a lot of time, even today, like talking to a lot of people that are in this, that are at bottom and they're trying to get out of that. That's what keeps me going. I'm passionate about that. And there's no money involved, obviously. And it's, you know, for the most part, an anonymous program. But, you know, the biggest thing is that for each one of us, we have to use our story to help, whether it's a larger group or it's just a single person. But I have to be passionate about it. And maybe I'm passionate about it because it's my story, right? And
Yeah.
I'm passionate about helping somebody else get out. And I think it's good that you mentioned that about the shoe thing. But either way, I have to be passionate. And if I'm not sure what I'm passionate about, you tell me if this fits. But I've found that if I go back far enough, maybe when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, what was I into before people told me I had to be something else? You know what I'm saying? I call it love the weird, which is that weird kid before we started dressing them up the way that they needed to be dressed up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I do know that. And for me, it's like I feel that so much because I went into engineering because my mom told me. But I literally would have been like like I could do the work. I'm capable of that. But I loved math, and I wonder where
Yeah.
that, and I think also what it taught me though, as a parent, is letting the next generation think through their passions and really
Yes.
help give them the space to do that.
Oh, it's a
And
huge challenge as a parent,
yeah.
because as much as I want to let everybody be Peter Pan, I'm not sure if I want them jumping on the bed. It's an everyday struggle with my wife and I, because she knows, you know, I'm Mr. Inauthentic Experience, and she knows I'm love the weird. So anytime I'm like creating these rigid rules for the kids, she's like, well, wait a second, you know. And so, and
Yeah.
she's real artistic, you know, and free spirited. And so it's always like this like challenge. It's funny. Your litmus test of how you're really doing is always at home, right? That's how you know if you're doing good. I could talk about this all day on podcasts and help all these people, but how am I doing at the house, you know?
Yeah, that's the core of it. And by the way, my kids are in their 20s now, and they're like amazing human beings. So if
Oh,
that's the
wonderful.
measure, thank you, because I feel good about that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, this has been great. Is there any other things that you want to kind of leave us with, or any like little life hacks that you found that's been working for you lately, just as far as like maybe managing your emotions or keeping you on track with your passion and purpose?
I think that uh, I really think about every day like this is a new day. I have an opportunity here to make a difference. And I I've always done this, and my family says this, is I really value kindness.
Mm,
And, when I interact with somebody, whoever they are, I try to lift them up. And it's just something that is important to me.
yeah,
And, and
I
that
love that.
makes me feel better. And, I mentioned the organization that I work with that helps students. I have in my office here, we have about a 70-person office. I have 2 of those graduates that work in my office. And it brings me such joy every time I see them, because they didn't have opportunities that many other people had, and they've been able to kind of turn their life, change their life story.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. Well, I definitely feel lifted up after having talked to you today. And I think you're right in the pocket, just from all the research I'm doing, all the stories that I have been learning about from other people, and in my journey of wanting to be more and more of a thought leader in this space. Everything that you've said today really lines up. So that's, always exciting to see how people that have never met, truth is so universal that when
Yeah,
it checks out, all truth is truth, because we never met, we've never talked, we didn't coordinate this conversation, and we're saying
not
the
at
same
all.
things. That to me, that's truth. That's how you know it's true.
Yeah, and that's great. That's powerful. When's your book coming out?
Well, my second book, I just put one out in February.
Okay,
So I
I'll
have
look
two
for
books
that.
out. Yeah, The Art of Why was 2016, and then 2022 was called Breaking Why. So yeah, check it out, Breaking Why. It's obviously available at all the major stores and whatnot. But yeah, the new one I'm working on will probably be 2024, The
Okay.
Inauthentic Existence. But a
Yeah,
lot of my stuff is in the Breaking Wise. I'm really proud of that one. So
yeah. Well, thank
there
you
you
so
go.
much.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward, for everybody who's listening and watching, what's the easiest way to learn more about what you're up to?
You can check out my website, or
Okay. What is that?
and it's Spinner Group at UBS. If you look up Spinner Group at UBS, you can link to it,
Okay.
and feel free. And on there, you can email me, and I'm happy to hear from anybody who wants to talk about purpose and passion.
Awesome. And you're on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, that kind of
Yes, I'm
stuff?
on LinkedIn too. Yes, and
Okay.
Instagram.
You
All
got it.
right.
All right. Well, it's wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. And we look forward to talking soon.
Thanks, Frankie. Take care.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
For those of you out there, tune in soon for another episode of the School of Why podcast. All right. Let's stop that.